It's on the government stuff.
Well, I actually just got off of a pre-solicitation call. It was really interesting. It's a local Atlanta solicitation they have out. They're looking to pretty much bring on a company to help build their workforce out here. So I'm thinking about bidding on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yeah. I'm
That'd be
trying.
awesome.
Yeah. Keep you
That'd be
posted on it.
awesome. I got a guy that's coming on today to chat. He's got this new, well, it's not new. It's kind of like the retain model, but just in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to call with him this morning. I was like, wow, that's brilliant.
What does he have?
He's going to explain it on today's call. And we had a call this morning. I recorded it and I was like, this is brilliant. It's got like
Cool.
50K a month coming in.
Wow.
Just guaranteed, but it's really providing value for both the clients and him. So it's a win-win for both sides.
Okay.
I really like it. And I was like, hey, you mind sharing some of this to the group?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, absolutely.
Awesome.
That's
excited.
Most of these recruiters are great. Right? They'll share and, you know.
Isn't that great? I love the community building around that too. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and that's what we want, right? Why not? There's enough for everybody.
There is. It's a huge country.
Yeah, right? Huge
Right.
country. Well, there are all these takers in here. Usually I get people like 10, 15 minutes, but hey, what else has been going on? GG. Hey, Barry.
How?
Hey, Josh.
Sorry, what'd you say?
What else is new?
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Good.
Hey, Buck. Barry.
I'm good. Howdy.
Sorry, GG, go ahead.
Oh, did you want me to start, or I don't know if you was gonna have your speakers go first?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So what's been going on? I have been working with one new client that I had out in San Francisco. Looks like it'll be a, pretty good deal. It's just one of those clients where it just takes forever to get some feedback, So I've been trying my hardest to keep the candidates warm. I'm hiring an executive salesperson and a marketing strategist for him. So just trying to close on that deal. Now I do have a meeting coming up tomorrow with a potentially new client, and I would love any advice that anybody in the call has for me. They are.
Well, I think you froze, or I froze. Something froze. Can you guys hear that?
I can hear you, Dom. I can't hear.
GG, I think you froze.
Yeah.
GG. GG. I think she froze. Might want to jump out and then jump back in. So, hey, Chris, how are you?
Hi, Dom. How you doing?
Good. Guys, want to know hear a crazy story real quick? So, I met Chris. Chris, these guys are all in GG. They're all recruiters in here, right? Already recruited Renee. So I put one of my videos on TikTok, put it out there. He reaches out to me, and I'm like, wow, what a good guy. He's from Michigan. I was shocked because I thought TikTok was just like for 17, 18-year-olds. And I don't really go on there. I just posted the video right from my CapCut, and then he reached out to me. I'm like, wow, okay, maybe I need to put some more time and effort into TikTok.
I might be a unicorn because I have a teenager. I'm just trying to keep up with. So
yeah.
That situation.
Awesome. Well,
Sorry,
thanks. Oh, there you are, Gigi.
Yeah,
sorry. What did you need help on?
Oh, I was saying I do have a potential client. Well, I'm meeting with someone tomorrow that could potentially be a client, and they have a lot of open positions. What I see is that they're in a very remote area. It's a healthcare company. They're like in the middle of Colorado. The closest city is Denver, which is like 3 hours away. So I'm really open. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that situation where you have a client, that's just in a very small town and they need a lot of positions to be filled. Open to any advice you have on how I can make, recruiting efforts easy for them.
That's tough because there's a reason why. And those are the kind of companies that will take on 15 recruiting firms.
Right.
like, I would ask that first, like how many
Mm-hmm.
recruiting firms are working on this, because otherwise you're spinning your wheels, wasting your time. But that's why I brought Josh on today, because me and Josh had an amazing conversation last week, and then this morning I recorded it. Josh, after he kind of explains this, you'll probably get a better idea of like what you can do here.
Okay.
So, Josh, you want to introduce yourself, what your company,
Yeah.
what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey everybody, my name is Josh England. I am the founder of Mountaintop Talent, which, like you guys, as a recruiting firm, we have a couple industry verticals that we really specialize in. We do a lot of stuff with Department of Defense contractors. We also do a lot of stuff with emergency services and public safety companies. Those are probably the two biggest ones. We also do some things in construction and architecture, but a lot of the things that we do have an overarching presence in IT-based roles, like software developers, engineers, project managers, those types of things. And I guess a couple of those things, like construction and architecture, doesn't really fit with the other two. But what I've done is I've built my recruiting firm based on the fact that we want people who are industry experts in those industries leading each division of the company where we recruit. And so whoever's heading that division of the company has at least 10 years of experience working in that industry, not necessarily doing recruiting, actually working in that industry. So when I have the opportunity to bring on the right people with the right expertise, sometimes we expand the industries we're in. And I guess, Gigi, I think it was to answer your question about what we're doing and what's working well and where we've seen a lot of success is, I think that's a super valid question. And I think it's a question a lot of people have. But we have, in my mind, we have two jobs as recruiters. Job one is to help our clients fulfill the need that they have, but we make sure that we go qualify that need really well and that we can come back to them from a very educated standpoint to help them understand the realities of what they're asking for. So we were in the exact same position as you a couple months ago. We had a client that we worked with regularly, and they came to us and said, hey, we need software developers, and this was a super specific ask, like really difficult. They were like, we need software developers on site in Oregon, remote area in Oregon, and we want them to come here and work for us. But we don't just want software developers. We want people who have 5 to 7 years of experience minimum doing software development on software as a service based platforms. We also want them to have experience as a career firefighter. And I said, okay, well, I said, let me go do some research and get back to you. And so me and my VP of recruiting went out and we got smart on this and we came back to them and said, okay, here's the reality of the situation. First and foremost, we can find some of these people for you, but we need to be quick when we get them into the process so that we don't lose them. Also, you guys are talking about a candidate pool of roughly 50 people in the state of Oregon that have both of these things, experience as a career firefighter and over 5 years of experience as a software developer. In the geographic region in the state surrounding that, we're talking about roughly 200 people. And in the United States, we're talking about less than 2,000. So I said, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you're telling me that you need 6 of these people, I'm going to almost guarantee you, first and foremost, you're going to need to be willing to pay some relocation expenses, because the people that are going to be willing to relocate to do this are going to want to be paid to relocate. Also, you have to understand that if there's 2,000 of these people in the United States, getting 6 of them is probably a fairly big ask, right? If there's 2,000 total, there might be 500 that are even remotely interested. Of those 500, there might be 50 of them that are willing to relocate and willing to work at the compensation range you're talking about, and then also meet your qualifications and make it through the interview process. So we had to qualify that beforehand, because it's our job not just to say yes, but it's our job to say, this is the reality of the situation and we either can or can't do this based on these variables. And you also have to understand that as we go through this process, you may need to be open to either paying more or increasing the relocation compensation or allowing people to do this remotely. Like we might find out in 6 months, you still need 3 software developers, you can't get them, and you'd be much better served to allow quality people to do this remotely that fit what you want than to just say, we're going to go without 3 software developers. So I think the education piece of it is really big. That's the first part. And then the second part, Dom mentioned, which is how many other recruiting firms are you competing with? Because if your candidate pool is really small, when you reach out to the candidates that are the right people, if 5 other recruiting firms or 10 other recruiting firms are working on this, more than likely, if they're doing their job well, these people are already going to have been contacted and given the same pitch by a different recruiter. And then all of a sudden, not only you guys, these other recruiters all start to lose credibility. And these people that are the right fit think that this is some kind of
Scam.
illegit thing, scam. Yeah, exactly. So I think that all is a big part of it. And then the second piece, and I won't jump into this until you're ready, Dom, but the conversation that Dom and I had last week was more about how do we get to the point where we have a direct relationship with this client so that when they do have a really specific ask, we're the only ones servicing it, and we can really be a trusted advisor to them to help them go about this the right way to have success. And we're the only recruiting firm working on this role. And also, if we're going to be doing something really difficult where we could put in a lot of time and effort, how are we going to make sure that we get compensated for that? And so I think that's kind of what the conversation this morning was about, and one of the bigger overarching points of me coming and talking to you guys about was. So Dom, I can kind of
Yeah,
go into
no, and he's spot on, because there's people on this call that do retain, right? But this is something that when Josh was explaining it to me, I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, this is just because I've heard all the different models, right? But I haven't heard the way he framed it. Like, so I want you to just explain kind of what you told me, because I thought it was brilliant. So I'm like, oh, if we can share this and help others not spin their wheels. Here you go.
How many of you guys on the call do retained? Offer retained as a service? Dom does. Does anybody else offer retained?
I think Renee does.
Okay, Buck. Yep. So a couple people.
Yeah,
I guess for any of the people that do it, other than Dom, because we've had this conversation, any of the people that do retain, when you're pitching retained services to a client, how do you go about delivering the value proposition of retained services to a client where you're saying retained is the right way for you to go instead of just paying me on a contingent basis to help you find people? How do you go about explaining to the customer where the value is? Like, what do you do to tell them this makes sense for you? Anybody who does retain, go ahead and tell me like
just
what your overall
domain authority figure, our connections, our network, being able to bring top talent to the table immediately that are passive, that are not going to apply, that are not looking, that most contingent recruiters won't have access to, even know these people, right? They trust us and in our in our track record in the space of putting people in good spots.
Okay, so I will kind of tell you guys. I'm gonna tell you at a 30,000 foot view how we do it, and then I'll open it up for questions around that stuff, and we can kind of have a conversation about those questions that come out of it. But for me, if a client has a really particular ask, and I know there's going to be a lot of competition on it, and I know that maybe it's going to be difficult for us to find the person, we're going to have to put a lot of effort in before we make money on a contingent basis. The first question I ask the client is, I'm like, hey, so I understand that you have this need or you have a couple needs, but I tell every one of our clients, if you're in a position where you know that you're going to need to hire more than 2 or 3 people this year, retained services may be the way for you to go. And let me explain why. And the why is I frame everything up for them using super rounded numbers, but I'm like, we charge 20% on a contingent basis. So if you know that you need 5 people this year and you're going to pay us to find those 5 people on a contingent basis, if each one of those people makes $100,000 a year, we have $500,000 in total salary, and we would normally charge 20% for that. So for us to hire those 5 people, it would cost you $100,000. The reason retained services works better, and there's a few building blocks here that make this all work. Number one is we start at a 30% discount off of our normal retained fees. So if it's going to cost you $100,000 to hire 5 people on a contingent basis, if you sign a retainer with us, we will do that same thing for you for $70,000. So you're saving 30 grand right off the bat. We also offer multiple tiers so that people can scale up from a 30% discount off normal retained or contingent services to a higher discount. Where you guys cap that discount or what you decide to do is up to you. But I normally offer them 3 different tiers. So if they say I need 5 people for sure in the next year, the first tier that I offer them might be 4 to 6 people. The second tier would probably be 7 to 10. The third tier might be 11 to 13 or 11 to 14. And I say, now the pricing is based off of the maximum number in that allocation. So it's based off of 6, or it's based off of 10, or it's based off of 14. We then give them the pricing. Also, we give them a steeper discount at each one of those levels. So we're trying to incentivize them to choose the maximum number. but we also build a few kickers in there. And the kickers that we build in are, if you go with the maximum, so if we offer you a contract for 4 to 6 and a contract for 7 to 10 and a contract for 11 to 14, if you choose the 11 to 14, not only do you get the largest percentage discount, but the maximum tier can be spread over 2 years instead of 1 year. So the goal is that for the 2-year contract, because now they're signing a 2-year contract with you, and we charge them monthly. So we know we're going to make X number of dollars per month off this contract. The goal with them choosing the maximum one is you're locking in that maximum amount of money guaranteed to your company, but the monthly payment amount for the maximum contract should be roughly the same as the monthly payment amount for the minimum 1-year contract. So when they say, I'm going to pay $5,000 a month for these services, I can pay $5,000 a month for 5 people over 1 year, or I can pay $5,000 a month for 14 people over 2 years. And they're not always exactly equal, but if one's $5,000 a month and one's $6,000 a month, most businesses are going to choose the $6,000 a month for 15 people or 14 people instead of 5 over 2 years. The other beauty of it is, if you know that allocation of people is something that they're going to consume in the first 12 months, 13 months, 14 months of their contract, as soon as you've met that maximum allocation, the remainder of the money that they owe is now due in full. And if you've done a good job for them, they're going to want to renew their contract and re-up for another contract. And so they've got to pay the remainder of the first contract before they start a new contract with you. So now we're going to keep money rolling in on a monthly basis on the new contract. But what you've done is, if you've said, I'm going to hire 15 people for you, or 14 people at an average salary of $100,000, what you've done is you've taken $1.4 million in total salary. That would normally be $200,000 in fees on a 20% contingent basis. And you've given them, a 40% discount off of that. So you've charged them $168,000 for 2 years. They've consumed that in 14 months. So when you divide that by 24, they're paying you $7,000 a month. When they pay the first 14 months, they've paid $98,000 of that total. They still owe 10 months. And so they still owe you another $70,000, which you're going to receive in full. And what you've done is, in their mind, you've given them a two-year contract at $70,000 a month. But when you complete the whole thing in 14 months, the reality of the situation is you actually made $12,000 a month, not $7,000. Because as soon as they pay you in full for that first contract, you've now made $12,000 a month, and they're going to more than likely, like highly likely, re-up and continue to pay you on a monthly basis. And so the real incentive for them comes from, I've got a monthly cost that I know what it is. I am receiving a 30% or a 40% discount on what retained service or contingent services that I was already going to pay for would normally cost me. So now I've hired 14 people for the price of 9 or 8. And also I've done it at a monthly cost that is, hopefully, if you're doing this the right way, the monthly cost that you're providing them is lower than the total compensation cost for two talent acquisition people that they could bring in turn. So the value proposition is, we're going to give you our whole team, all of our resources, all of our energy and focus. We're going to do this at a very high level, and we're going to do it for less than what 1.5 or 2 total full-time compensations for 2 talent acquisition people is. That's very hard to say no to. You've also put them in a position where you're going to build trust, and you're going to make your life way easier, because you're the only, if they're paying you retained services, they're probably not going out and also letting other recruiting firms work on this on a contingent basis, where they could potentially have to pay them if they bring somebody to the table. And the other thing that we get to do now is we get to say, hey, since we have this year contract, or we have this 2-year contract, here's a spreadsheet. I want you to put all your prospective hiring needs for the next 12 months or 24 months in this spreadsheet. Job titles, estimated salary range, how many people you need in that role, when you need them, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. So now I know what my work looks like for this client for the entire year, or for the entire 2 years. And if I know that I have a really difficult job search coming up and they want the people in the third quarter in 2025, I might start that job search in June. So when it comes to all the other things my company is doing and that we're working on, we've made our lives very easy from a capacity planning standpoint. And we're not rushing around to do a bunch of work to try to make a commission. We're doing it at an intentional pace to get these people the people that they need when they need them. And so I guess that's kind of the whole thing at a 30,000 foot view. And I'd open it up for questions from there. But that's been very successful for us.
No, I love it. I love it. I think, like for what about on the executive side? If you would normally charge 33%, right? For
Yeah, so
executive hire.
the contract says, and one of the things that we're exploring, the contract says that this includes all positions for people you may need outside of C-suite level people. It also has a stipulation in there that says you can't pull a fast one on us by saying, I need to hire a new director, which is not a C-suite person, but the director reports directly to the CEO. If the director you're hiring reports directly to the CEO, they're C-suite. So whoever reports to the CEO is C-suite. And if you want a C-suite level person, we can do that for you. That is not included under the scope of this retained contract that we've signed. That's separate, and it costs 30% of their total yearly compensation. We're also exploring potentially allowing clients to utilize multiple slots in their allocation. So if we're hiring 10 to 12 people for a client, if that's the allocation that they've chosen, so there's 12 slots, and they come to us halfway through and say, hey, we need a new chief financial officer, I say, okay, do you want to pay for that separate from this contract, which is what I push them towards doing? Like, we'll do that separate, and it's 30% of that person's first year salary. Or do you want to do it under the scope of the current contract because you don't really have additional money to spend on recruiting? And depending on that person's total first year compensation, that person is going to consume 2 or 3 of your total slots in your allocation. So when we go out and hire the CFO for you and you had 12 people total, that used 3, right? So if we're hiring based on an average annual salary of $100,000 in the retained contract, and they want a CFO who's going to make $300,000, that's 3 people. That's 3 allocations. And so they can choose whatever works for them. If you can't afford to spend the extra money, burn up 3 of your allocation slots. If you want to do it separately and keep these allocation slots because you know you're going to have the need throughout the remainder of the year, we can do it as a separate contract and we can get that done for you. But the good thing about it is, even if they go down the road of saying, we'll just do it as a separate contract, if they're working with you already on a retained basis and they know you and trust you, they're not going to open that up to any other recruiting firms. They're just going to let you go do it for them on your own. So you don't have to compete against other recruiting firms.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's where a lot of recruiters struggle is they go fully contingent, maybe one hire, they're working on a role and then they close it out. Like I know that for a fact because a recruiter just texted me like, God, I'm so frustrated. I was working on this role for 2 months and they just closed it out on me. I'll go, yeah, it's part of the game and that's what happens, right? But that sucks. But this is kind of like a staffing model where you got the residual income coming in. So you can do it for 3, 4, 5 clients. And then you can go back to, if I want to take that one on contingent and it's in the same space that I'm in, my same niche, I'll take that one on contingent.
Yeah.
And then a higher fee because now you're not worried about the monthly recurring revenue coming in. That's why I like this model a lot. I think I want Josh to share it because I don't think a lot of people are doing this model and they're spinning their wheels. Which I can tell you, Gigi, if you're still on, you probably would end up spinning your wheels on this role you're going to work on in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. I would put something together like this and offer it to them and just see what they have to say. But I would come to that conversation very educated about what their ask is and why you're pushing them towards this. Like, I'd come to that conversation going, this is what you're asking me for. This is what the candidate pool looks like locally. This is what the candidate pool looks like statewide. This is what it looks like. And we're basically trying to break it into, here's who could do it without relocating and here's who would have to relocate. But this is what the total candidate pool looks like for this ask that you have. And for that reason, we would recommend going in this direction to do it. And the only thing you need to know from them up front is, how many people do you guys expect to need to hire for this year where you need help? And what do you think is the average salary for the person that you hire? Is it 90 grand a year? Is it 110? Is it 120? Because if you have those 2 pieces of information, you have everything that you need to put together that package for them that I talked about, where you say, here's 3 different tiers of numbers of people we could hire for you based on this average annual salary. Here's the cost of each tier. Here's the discounts in each tier, and lay it all out for them. And just say, you want to go. And the other thing I usually tell people too is, by the way, if you decide to hire us to do this contingent and we do it successfully, and you come back and have another ask for us on a contingent basis, most of my clients, by the time they've hired 2 people contingent for us, they could have paid 33% of their first year contract. So,
Yep.
Wow.
And if you need help with, I don't know if you have LinkedIn Talent Insights. I have it. I could print a report for you real quick, 2 seconds.
Yep.
So it just gives you that educated information to go to them at the table and say, here you go. This is not my data. This is Microsoft's data.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. First of all, thank you so much, Josh. So informative and super, super helpful, everything that you said. I definitely think I'm going to take that approach with this client. I think my first question that I have is, how does it work if, let's just say, as an example, somebody does sign a contingency, maybe you're tier 1, and for whatever reason, the job gets, 1 or 2 of the jobs gets canceled before the year. Do you offer any type of like money back or anything, or it is what it is?
No.
Okay.
No. So that's and I guess that's the other thing too. So the benefit for us is we're able, and I guess this is another thing to inform them of. We're able to offer you this discount because this is guaranteed work for us, and we know how much money we can count on a monthly basis. So there are no discounts, there are no refunds, but if you want to give your client or potential client a warm fuzzy about, what if I tell these guys I need 10 people, and so I pay for 10 people, but I only end up hiring 5 because my hiring changes need, like my hiring needs change. What do I do? Because now I haven't saved money. I've spent extra money because I paid for 10, but I only got 5. So what I tell my people is, I have no interest in like winning the game by being like, hey, you paid us for 10, but you only hired 4 and your contract expired on January 29th. Like, haha, we made a bunch of extra money from you. I just tell them the reason that I've put this in tiers, 4 to 6, 7 to 10, 11 to 14. The reason I put it into tiers is because we expect to hire the maximum number in the allocation for you. But if we don't get to the minimum number in the tier, we'll roll this forward for an additional 12 months at no additional cost, or until you reach the maximum number in your allocation. Because what almost always happens is, let's say that you have a client that you do the 7 to 10, and they only hire 4 people in the first 12 months of the contract. We go, no problem. We're going to roll it forward for another 12 months at no additional cost. You've got 5, 6, 7, 8 left, right? So you've got 4 hires left in this allocation. We're going to roll it forward for an additional 12 months. More than likely, sometime in the first 6 months, they're going to hire those people. And then they're going to come and they're going to go, well, you guys served us really well. We got our maximum allocation. We feel like there was a great return on the investment. How do we go about re-upping this contract? And so they've already paid us for the work. We already planned on doing it. It doesn't cost us anything to roll it forward for another 12 months at no additional cost. And when we fulfill that need that they have and they see that we're really on their side and we're really trying to provide value, the decision for them to re-up or not is almost always a no-brainer. Like, they've seen that you're invested in them and what they're doing. They are going to re-up with you. Like, we haven't had a client not re-up yet. Because I told them, I said, like, I have no interest in winning the game by making more money per head by hiring less than what we've agreed to hire for you. So that gives them an extra security blanket. And honestly, I think without that guarantee in there, a lot more people would be a lot more hesitant to sign that retained agreement. Because one thing they can't control is they have hiring projections, but they can't control what their hiring needs are. And so they have to be protected in some way. And if you're willing to protect them by saying, we're going to get this done for you and we're going to make it right, whether it's over the course of the next 12 months or 24 or whatever, if they know that you're invested that way, they usually don't have a problem paying you.
Yeah. I like the rollover idea too, because I mean, if you didn't hire in these 12 months, you'll most likely need them in the following year at some point.
Yeah.
And you're building trust. It's a true partnership, right?
Yeah.
And they know that you have their best interest. It's a win-win for everybody. Where there's a lot of recruiters that's like, oh, I can help you fill this role. They don't care. They just, I see all the messages. Like, just imagine how many messages we all get from RPO companies. Like, imagine now bigger companies that you're targeting with the same messaging. It's like, that doesn't work. You're going to come to them with valid data, information, just a proven track record too. Like, hey, here's what I can do. Here's my capabilities. And even if it's like, hey, let's say they say 40 roles and you're a team of 2. Well, hey, you only have to deal with me.
Yeah.
And I have all I can say, hey, I got 20 other recruiters that will help, and then I'll give them to each recruiter one by one. That's what I'm going to start doing this year, because I think that's such a great idea, Josh.
I'll throw one last thing into that mix. one thing that scares potential clients away from signing a retained deal is don't feel pressured to go in there and be the person that says, if you sign this retained contract with us, we will hire for every position that you have come open in the next year. I always tell people, give me the ones that you're going to have a really hard time filling on your own. And then the ones that are easy, that don't make sense for you to burn an allocation slot on, go take care of those yourself, or know that if we do all these different things, so we do software engineers, we do electrical engineers, we do mechanical engineers, software developers, we do all these different things. If you come to me and say, hey, I need a new marketing person, I'm probably going to say, we don't do that. You need to take care of that on your own, because I only want to do this where I provide quality. And what I can't guarantee you is we can work on it. We can try to hire you a marketing person, but I'm not going to guarantee you that we're going to be able to find every single person you need, but we're going to work together to make sure that it gets done, and it gets done well, whether it's us doing it when it's a difficult to fill role, or you doing it internally, or us helping you do it internally. We're going to provide support. But don't be the person that when they go, well, we've got 50 open job roles, can you work on all these different things? You just go, yeah, we can do it all if you signed a retained agreement with us. Because again, if they're even remotely intelligent, you're going to lose some credibility, because the number of recruiting firms out there that can do everything are very limited, and they're the very, very big recruiting firms. So don't pin yourself into a position where that's their expectation, and don't pin yourself into a position where you lose credibility because you offer to do something that they know that you likely can't do.
Right. That's awesome. Good way to put it, Josh. Anybody have any other questions? Like, I think that's amazing.
It is.
Hey, Josh, real quick, as far as, when you're prospecting, what's your ideal organization that you'd like to prospect into? Is it more of like a revenue standpoint, like 500,000 to $1 billion, or, because I know that a lot of times what we're talking about, I see this being like maybe a company that's a startup. This might be a great opportunity because they don't know really who to work with to get the right people on board, from that standpoint. And the revenue sometimes isn't quite there, right? It's just kind of a startup. What is your kind of ideal,
So I
prospect?
can tell you guys, first of all, how many of you guys operate in Department of Defense or emergency services? Anybody? Okay. So I'll tell you, and I want to answer your question as directly as I can, Tim.
Yeah.
But for me, that's a really industry specific thing, right?
Okay.
Different for different industries. But I will say this, when it comes to startups and it comes to smaller companies and it comes to our ideal client profile, for me, whatever it is in that industry, depending on the makeup of their company, because some companies have, like a tech company might have 50 people, but they might be 48 software developers and 2 people run around doing executive stuff and running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Like a manufacturer of goods is going to have a completely different makeup of the required staff to do that. So it's industry specific, but at the same time, the ideal company profile isn't necessarily a certain number of people or a certain amount of revenue. What it is it's a company who is in a position where they probably don't have enough talent acquisition people or human resources people. So to me, normally that comes somewhere in the realm of having 30 people minimum, maybe the maximum of like 200 people. If you're that company size, there's a good chance that you've grown and your talent acquisition team hasn't grown as fast as you have. And so now they're understaffed and overworked and they need some help. Those companies usually are also in a position where they've got a big enough pocketbook that paying $10 or $15 or $20,000 a month to a service like ours is not something that's going to cause discomfort within their organization. So they've got the pocketbook to be able to afford it. And then for almost all the industries, these are companies that are growing at roughly 10% or more per year for the last 2 years, because they're growing at a sustained rate. They've got the money to afford what you're asking them to afford, but they don't have enough help. When you get to the people in the companies that are really big, like it could be really appealing to get Google as a client because they have 4,000 open job recs that you could work on. You're going to be competing with a bunch of other recruiting firms. They've got their own internal talent acquisition people team that's huge. They're probably going to be a pain to work with because they're busy. There's no direct connection between you and them. But when you work with one of these people that has 30, 40, 50, 80, 100, 200 people, you're probably going to have a direct link in their talent acquisition team. They're going to let you get to work and do what you do because they've got other responsibilities outside of talent acquisition. They're already overworked, and they've got a big enough pocketbook that when you say, hey, we can do this for you, but it's going to be $15,000 a month, they go, that's a great value, because they know that's less money than it would cost them to hire 2 talent acquisition people that were quality when you look at total compensation for those 2 people. So that to me is kind of the right demographic to start with. And that's all I'm looking for. You've got a big enough pocketbook to pay me without causing your company discomfort or potential problems, but you don't have enough talent acquisition people to handle this on your own, and you're growing quickly. And if we have this conversation today, and then we have it again in 3 months and we've done nothing, in 3 months, this is going to be a bigger problem than it was now. Because you might have the conversation now, it might be a no or a no response. In 3 months, when they have more going on and it's more of a problem, it might still be a no, but I promise you, sometime along the way, in 6 months, 9 months, as that company continues to grow at that rate and that problem continues to compound, they're going to come back to you and they're going to have a need. And not only that, at that point in time, you're probably going to be able to squeeze more money out of them, because when you first asked, they might have said, we need 5 people over the next year. 9 months down the road, when it becomes a bigger problem, they might need 15 people over the next year. So now you get to offer them a bigger contract. And so I think that's what we're really looking for when we're going out and looking for these opportunities.
You know, and I appreciate you answering it. That's perfect. I mean, you know, a lot of times you think it's black and white, but it isn't. And it's whatever happens in your niche. Like, we're in food manufacturing, right? Production.
Yep.
So when we go to employee count, a plant is going to have 300 to 500 people, right?
Yep.
So right away, we're like, you can't go by employee count. You go by what their resources, like what their TAs, how many are they doing? Are they replacing it? But one key that you brought up that's like a light bulb right now is to identify if the organization's growing. And in food manufacturing, sometimes we don't ask. We're like, oh, you need a plant manager. He just left. Well, is it growing?
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things. That's key to actually see if there's going to be more roles that are going to be opening up.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't really be straightforward with everybody here. I don't really look at if the company's growing. I look at what they're looking to, you know, what's going to fulfill their product so they can get the product out the door. You know, who are they missing? Or if they're looking to grow product lines, sometimes that comes up, but that's not sometimes a direct question I ask. So, you know,
well, sometimes, Tim, it could be when they get that right person in there that will allow for that growth to happen. So that's not off, right?
Tim, I don't think either one of those things are wrong, because if you have a guy who's the most placeable candidate, if you have an MPC for a plant manager role, and that's the only thing that company's hiring for, but they haven't really had any growth over 2 years, that doesn't mean that reaching out to that company and trying to get that guy in to that role is not a good thing to do. It's a great thing to do. You just need to understand that more than likely, that's going to be a contingent thing that you do, and that's going to be a one-off relationship unless the stars align and you do something else for them in the next year or two. But when you're going out and looking for those clients, they're going to be open to and incentivized to take that retained type of approach. The growth is critical. Because if the growth isn't there, when you ask the question, how many people do you think you need to hire over the next 1 to 2 years? They're going to go, I don't know, we've hired 2 people in the last 2 years.
Right.
And then I'm going to go, okay, well, if you've got something, we can do it for you contingent, but retained would make sense. But when I ask the question and they go, oh man, I don't really know. And I'm like, well, just guess, if you had to guess. And they're like, well, we're probably going to need, 15 people over the next 1 or 2 years. I'm like, okay, now we're talking about something where retained services absolutely make sense. And let me tell you why that makes sense. And then we go into the conversation that I just had with you guys. And so that growth factor is very important when you're targeting that retained type of work. And I think if you guys start doing this and you start seeing success with it, I think one of the things you're going to find out is a lot of clients that you have, if they're growing, are going to be interested in these retained type of services, which is a very good thing. But just know, if you're offering a 30% discount off your normal contingent rates, or if you're offering a 40% discount off your normal contingent rates, that's money that you're leaving on the table, where had you done this work contingent, you would have made that additional money. So I think it's an important question to ask yourself, if it's 1 client, if it's 2 clients, is it 5 clients? How many clients do you busy yourself with having retained responsibilities towards, versus how many you want to leave out there that you're willing to go do contingent work for? Because in my mind, I decided how much money we want to make per month off retained services. So I know we have a guaranteed set amount of monthly income coming in. And whether that is 2 retained clients or 10 retained clients, if I want to make $50,000 a month retained, my retained portfolio needs to make that amount of money, not necessarily a number of clients. And then when we get that amount of money, now all I'm trying to do is go get as many contingent clients as I can to backfill when we're not busy doing retained work, or when we have a gap for a week or 2 in retained work. we can do contingent work and we can bring in extra one-off money, and that's all just gravy. So I think you need to decide how much money would be your goal to make it a monthly basis on a retained basis, and then look at, you know, how many clients do I think I'm going to need to do that? Do I need 3? Do I need 4? Did I score a contract for the next 3 years that was huge with one client, and that takes care of all of it? Because there's a direct correlation between the amount of money you make from a retained client and how busy you're going to be from that client. The more money you're making, the more people they need in a year. The more people they need in a year, the more you have to place per month. And I'm going to tell you, your contingent clients are great. There is nothing more important, and nobody takes priority for us over our retained clients, because hopefully these are relationships that last the next 5, 10, 15 years, and they're just paying me every month for as long as I want to do this. So there are no relationships that are more important than those ones. So,
And that's a good point, because like I said, on contingency, you'd love to say you got a relationship, but there's no relationship on any contingency. Like
yeah,
they'll go to another recruiter because they're doing the exact same thing, you know,
Yep.
and then sometimes they'll lie right to your face and say, no, we're not using anybody,
we're
you
not
know,
enough.
but if you got that retained, now they got skin in the game, and it's just a different level of relationship. So
Well,
2025, I want to
I'll
get there.
put a wrench in that because some of my best clients are contingent, and we have the best relationship. And anytime they have a sales role open, they're coming to me. But they also have a team, you know, of a talent acquisition, and they don't need us for the other roles. It's just for sales, because their internal recruiters don't know how to recruit salespeople. And anybody that recruits in SaaS, supply chain tech, or SaaS, software sales in general, knows it's harder. It's hard to recruit on salespeople, because it's great. Yeah, you were President's Club 3 years ago. What are you going to do for me today? That's the difference with sales, right? You know, it's like, yeah, okay, like a software engineer, it's like, yeah, you have that track record, you see what they can do. Here's their background. Now in sales, it's like, that's great. You were President's Club last year, but how do we know what you're going to do when you come over here? Is this a good fit, right? Like, and what I do too, and I'll show you guys this, like a lot of what Josh is saying, I'll even go to them with this data, right, ahead of time. So this is what I was telling you, GG, where I can show you. You know, like for example, here's a company that I'm actually pulling from right now, but Kinaxis. And now the CEO is over there that I know very well. So I'm going to get in it. But before I do, I want to get a couple candidates out of there. But on their sales function, right, they're down 9%. Why is that, right? So I talked to a few candidates from there, what's going on. Just shows you like, all right, what are their skills? And then you start putting, Tim, like we were talking about, like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, I was telling you about my videos, like taking all this and putting it into my LLM. And it's like, okay, well, it's just going to keep building on for me. But then it shows you even profiles. Okay, here's the profiles I'm going to need to target. I already got 3 of these guys interviewing. But yeah, I think you can only get the profiles piece if you have LinkedIn Recruiter Pro.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, Dom. When you're, and I agree, like contingent clients can be great relationships, especially if you do work for them on a recurring basis and they know you. And sometimes there are clients that I intentionally don't offer retained services for, because I know they're potentially going to be a cash cow for us on a contingent basis. And if we can get in there and do the work well and win their business, like that's a great thing to do too. I am not saying all of these client relationships you should try to push towards retain. I'm just saying this is a very good avenue to make your life easier and have some income that you can count in on a monthly basis. Because for how many of you guys, if you could say, I've got $50,000 a month locked up for the next 2 years, that gives you a hell of a lot of room to figure out how to continue to grow your business, how to develop new leads, how to bring in new clients. Like that's a very good position to be in. And so it just is a security blanket, right? Like this shouldn't be the end all be all. It should be your security blanket.
And I love it. And I think this is where most people struggle, Josh. And that's why I wanted you to come on and explain this, because that is a major pain point for a lot of recruiters. You see, like, especially like I know a recruiter right now, he's like, Dom, if this company doesn't pay me, you know, got one hire coming in, he's like, I'm done. He's got a good job. So it's like, you don't want to put yourself in that spot, right? And save that, and don't ever count that hire until you get that check in your account.
Yep.
Ever. I mean, I lost $250K in 1 week last year. 1 week, where most people would have lost their minds. We were pissed. AK and I were pissed, but like, what are you gonna do? I gotta go outside for a walk for an hour, switch the channel. I always tell myself, My father-in-law says it to my kids: switch the channel, switch it. Just get
I'm with
I
you.
mean, you can't be miserable for a week. What's that going to do? Switch the channel, take it out for an hour, go for a walk, punch some walls, whatever, do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But
And
you can't.
and I think this roundtable Dom has going is great, because you guys jumping on here and having a support network and everything is a super cool thing. And I'll tell you, man, there's ups and downs. And so I think for a lot of people, that security blanket that I was talking about with the retained work is nice, because when you have that, the stress goes down dramatically, right? With some of the stuff Dom was talking about, the most stressful position you can be in is something has to happen or this thing has to work out. Otherwise, I'm totally screwed. Like, that's the most stressful position you can be in. So this security blanket is really nice, and it's a nice feeling. And it's like Dom said, if you've got that, and if you're doing well, and if you're doing these things the right way, and you position yourself in a way where not everything has to be super high stress, not everything has to be. And it's exactly like what Dom talked about the other day. Literally yesterday, I'm talking to this client about an 18-month contract, and first they're going to do it, and then they're not going to do it, and then they're going to do it again. I mean, yesterday, literally between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., before I finally had this thing locked in, what was going to be net profit for our company, I made $90,000 yesterday. 2 hours later, I lost it. The middle of the day, I thought I had it back. And then they came back with one of their attorneys and said, no, there's no way we're going to do this. So it was completely off the table. And then at 5 o'clock, we had a signed contract. And so, like, I made and lost $90,000 like twice yesterday. If I was in a position where I was relying on that, I'd be like, dude, I would have been like, I would have had a freaking heart attack. But because we're in this position with some of the retained work we have, it'd be really nice if this happened. But if it doesn't, like,
You're just operating better, right? You're operating from a clear head. You're not stressed. You're not forcing shit down the, you know.
And then you get to say no to things that, like, you get to say no to things that you don't want to do, and with clients who aren't going to respect your time and effort. Because again, the worst position you can be in is feeling like you can't ditch a client that's not respecting you, not returning your calls, not setting up a meeting when you need one, not interviewing the quality candidates that you're submitting in a timely fashion. The nicest position to be in is to go, hey, you know what? This has been really fun, but I don't need it. Go find somebody else to help you out, because you're not respecting my time and input here. So I'm not interested in this relationship. And hopefully you guys are all there. And if you're not, when you get there, I'm going to tell you, it's a really liberating feeling to be able to go, thanks, bye, like, good luck.
Is Byron on this call? Because Byron I had a call with him, Google Meet earlier. He's like, Dom, I can't believe you talked to that client that way. I go, well, I don't care. They don't want to follow this process. I don't want to work with them. He's like, you talk to them like that? I go, yeah, you have to.
I mean, it's a respect.
You don't respect you. Why respect them?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So hopefully, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I hope this was super helpful. And if I tried to make connection requests with a couple of you guys that were on the call, if any of you have any questions, get a hold of me. Let me know. I'd be happy to talk to you individually. If you have any other questions about other things we're doing, we're a pretty open book. And I told Dom, like, some of this stuff I feel like is pretty proprietary, but at the same time, we're out there doing what we're doing well, and we have really good relationships with our clients. So I'm not worried about people stealing work or success from us. And I told Dom a year ago, and Dom has been, and shout out to Dom, Dom has been an immensely instrumental part of us growing and the things I've done from the time that I started, and
thanks,
been a huge support piece. So I appreciate the hell out of Dom, but we want to be able to do the same thing for other people. And I tell all my guys on a regular basis, we didn't start this to get rich. We didn't start this to make a ton of money. Like, making money is nice, but mountaintop talent exists because I think as a whole, the recruiting industry kind of sucks, and there's an opportunity to do it way better. And if we're doing those things, and if other people find value in that, that means that we're having some modicum of success in what we're trying to do. So I'm happy to share anything I can with you guys that's going to help you be successful. And hopefully the group of people, hopefully this thing grows, and hopefully the recruiting industry is starting to get seen in a more positive light and positive regard, and as a true partner for these companies out there that need a partner, not just as somebody who wants to come in and milk them for every dollar that they can. And so,
love it.
Reach out, ask me any questions you have. Happy to be a resource for you guys, and super happy to get connected with you.
No, that was perfect, Josh, because you're spot on. There's so many recruiters that just try to milk these companies, and they give us a bad name. And then you got other recruiting firms that just do it for super low percentages that doesn't even make sense. It's like, for us as we all went on our own boutique firms, right, to be able to pick and choose our clientele.
Yep.
And that's what we get to do, right?
And work on things that you care about,
Right.
you know,
And then your
work on
passion.
things that you're passionate about. Help companies that you see value in, that you believe in the mission of what they're doing and why they're doing it, and get to be a part of their success story, because nothing feels better than that.
Yeah, I agree. And don't get me wrong, if you're just starting out and you're in the beginning, when I first started, I took on anything I could get.
Same.
Right. But if I went back and I could just focus on one area, I probably, but hey, what I did is just tapped into my connections, my network. Who do I have in my phone? Call everybody on your phone. Who are they connected with? Can you make an introduction here? You know how many networking calls I'm on every week?
Same.
It's on my calendar.
It
Insane.
drives me nuts.
Nonstop. I don't even take a break. 15 minutes, boom, 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 hour calls. It's just what it takes, right? I'm going to Vegas for a Manifest Supply Chain Conference. My wife's like, oh, I wish you can go. I go, why? I wouldn't even see you anyways. My whole day from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night is jam packed.
Yep.
But I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be a nice break for me, away from the kids, wife. No, it's like Brent Orsigo said. He goes, man, you're gonna be mentally drained. I go, I know. I already am every day when I'm done.
It's so funny. Like everybody on this call can probably appreciate this and laugh, because you all get to be your own boss. But everybody's like, oh man, that must be like awesome. And it is fantastic. But me and my VP have been talking about for a week. It's been 50 degrees down here where I'm at. And we've been talking about like, hey man, it's finally warm enough. Let's get out and play some golf. And we've talked a lot about it. Guess what we've done zero of? We've played some golf. Is zero, because we're so busy doing other things that we know there's value in, and then our clients need our time and other things, which neither one of us have a problem with. But for as great as it is to be your own boss, as great as it is to be able to set your own schedule and all these things, you're kind of beholden to your client's needs. And we do a good job of making sure that we do press the timeout button sometimes, but we're also so invested in what we're doing and we're enjoying it enough that like,
it's not
I can
work.
go right now and play golf, but like I've got other things to do that are higher on my priority list, and so I'm not going to. So for as great as it is to be your own boss, like I think everybody's going to go through the thing where you go, man, I wake up and get on my computer at 7 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I sit on the thing until 10 o'clock at night, because we're building something and there's value in that, and you're enjoying what you're doing. And so it's great, but it's a lot of work. And, don't be afraid. That's the other thing. Even if you don't want advice, don't be afraid to pick up the phone or hop on LinkedIn and message me and just BS about how difficult this is sometimes, because for as much success as we've had and as fortunate as we are, and all the things that I feel blessed for, there are days where I'm just like, man, I could just stop what I'm doing and just choke somebody, like repeatedly, because it's difficult.
We all have been there.
Right? So
Everyone.
Every entrepreneur has definitely. You have those days at least a couple of days out of the month.
I had it
Yeah.
yesterday.
If you show me one that has not, please show me. I would love to talk
Yeah.
to them. And what are they doing?
Yeah.
Because I'm stressed out every day.
If this roundtable was done yesterday, it probably would have been a completely different vibe for me.
Yeah, you're right. You're
probably been like,
down.
you guys should all figure out if you're skilled in something that's recruiting, and go figure out how to do it, because we really ought to fold this thing up. And it's not. But you got to appreciate the ups and downs, right? And you got to have a little bit of a level mind when it comes to, you're going to go through it, so grind it out. Because I think Don posted a message the other day. The money's great, the job is fun. When you get to talk to that candidate or you get to talk to that client, it's like, man, I've been looking for something for a year. I've been looking for the right person for this role for a year, and you guys just killed it for me. But that feels good. It feels good to help people. And so it's a great job to be in, because there's not that many jobs where you truly get to help people, but then you get to make really good money in the meantime. So grind it out. It's tough, but it's rewarding. So.
Yeah, totally agree. Josh, thank you so much. Do you mind dropping like your LinkedIn on the chat so we can connect?
Yeah, no, I'll do that. I'll do that right now. Let me I should have done that to begin with. It would have been easier.
Yeah, everybody should put theirs in there, but there's nothing better than getting tech like this. You guys so excited, change his life.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a postcard the other day from England, a guy that owns a recruiting firm that was starting out, and I spent an hour on the phone. I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. And we got randomly connected on LinkedIn. I said, listen, I'm going to pull up this sheet. If you don't want to hear about it, just tell me to shut up, but I'm going to tell you. I said, here's my whole tech stack. I said, this is what I pay per month. This is everything I use. This is what's worked for me. This is how I use it. And a month and a half later, I get this postcard from him. Hey, man, most helpful call I've had since I've started in the recruiting business. And I don't know how to thank you enough for having that conversation with me. I'm like, dude, it was like 7 o'clock at night. I was working on something, typing away. He wanted to have a call. I'm like, yeah, call me. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's rewarding.
And I think a lot of people in this group, the call I go on Friday, and then Tim, that one that we go on, I think that one's harder to get on, but it's a good, there's a lot of good calls where people are willing to share. Where 14 years ago, when I first started, nobody was sharing anything. We wouldn't even tell you what tools we were using, ever.
No.
Yeah.
And I
You
feel like I owe that to Dom, really, because Dom did that for me over the course of the last year, like over the last year and a half when we really started. And again, even just having somebody that I knew I could pick up the phone and be like, dude, this sucks, was super helpful, even if we weren't going to talk about anything super relevant, because me and Dom are very like-minded. So that was super helpful. But to have that resource was great. And then now I feel like I owe that back to, like, again, if you guys care about making the recruiting industry better, these are the kind of things that you're going to want to do and support as well, right? Because it starts with a couple of us, and then it expands and it expands, and it's exponential, right? So if we really want to make this thing better, we're going to do it as a group, and we want to help the new people coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Love it, Josh. Good stuff.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Thank you,
Anyone
Josh.
else have anything? Renee, how are you?
I'm good. I'll be reaching out to Josh.
Yeah. Good stuff, eh?
But
Yeah.
that was great. Thank you very much. That was really great information.
Glad you
Buck,
got something helpful.
Buck, how you doing?
Sorry there. Man, I'm getting over a crazy respiratory infection. But I'm good otherwise. I just moved to Austin last week too, so like my life's all up in the boxes and shit. But yeah, man, I'm doing great. Josh, that was awesome. I really appreciate the info there. I mean, it gave me a different perspective on pitching retained services, because usually how I go about it is it's happened only a couple times. It's not a priority for me, but it's like I'll do a contingent search and then it'll fall apart, and then they come back and they're like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, well, last time didn't go so well, so I really, we're gonna need to approach this in a different way, and that tends to work. But I really like the way you framed it.
Yeah.
You want to know something crazy?
It's all about framing right there. You see that?
Yeah.
We've got, so right now, I think we have 5 retained clients right now. Not a single retained client that I have did I do contingent work before they became retained. We got on a call. They said, what do you guys do? I said, this is what we do. I said, we do contingent, we do retain. You guys retain makes more sense for. Explained it. Explained why. They signed a retained contract. Had never done a lick of work for them or received a single penny from them. And they just went retained. I'm going to tell you, it's because it goes back to what we said. We came to that meeting very, very well prepared to talk about their industry and the needs that they had and what the market looked like for them to go out and get the people that they need. We came to that call very educated. And so automatically, I think in their mind, we were a point of authority on that topic, which generated enough trust for them to sign a retained agreement with us and pay us up front for a portion of that contract before we'd ever done any work for them at all.
Yeah,
So you don't have to do contingent work for them before somebody says yes to retain. You just have to come prepared and educated.
Yeah, I think the whole budgeting, because I work with a number, I'm going to do legal recruiting, and I work with growing firms typically that have like less than 50 people. They don't have a dedicated talent acquisition person. And one of the main objections that I get on a pretty regular basis is like, oh man, like that whole, like, so I've been paying $30,000-$40,000 in one chunk is a lot for these folks. So I've been like, well, we can break it up, but people retain if they know that they're going to grow over the course of the next
simple message, right? Like, hey, what if I can hire 5 people for you over the next 12 months? It's going to cost you somewhere in the neighborhood of, again, contingent fees would cost you $100,000. What if we could do it for 70? And if we didn't hire 5 people for you this year for 70 grand, we'll roll it forward for another 12 months at no additional cost and make sure you get your 5. And when we get to the point that allocation has been reached, we'll talk about re-upping this thing. But at the end of the day, it looks like $6,000 a month for you, for us to be your people. That's hard to say no to.
Yeah, it's great value.
Think about how much easier it is to operate on that when you have it's kind of like a staffing model, right? just residual coming in, monthly recurring revenue. Brent, how you doing? Brent, are you on
I'm
mute?
good. I'm good. Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry about that. No, Joshua, thanks a lot for being on. This week I had a client. I've been working with them. I used to work with her when she was at her old company, and she called me right about Christmas and said, "Hey, Brent, we need to fill 12 software engineering roles." So it's like right on. So I've been working on that for about a month, and it's been horrible to deal with because they're kind of in that hyper growth, Series A, but they are getting revenue. And then on a call yesterday, he's like, "Yeah, well, we don't need your help with many of these roles, only 3 of them now." And she's also, I found some incredible people, and the problem is she's not technical, and I'm having a tough time educating her on why this person's a great software engineer. And it's like, normally it happens, like one of the guys I have was on the original Amazon Go team, and like one of the first less than 10 developers. And they also created an API at Amazon that had 100 million calls a day. And it's like, okay, this is a guy you want to talk to. But, I wasn't able to get through to her, but I love the idea of just being like, okay, it's retained, and I'm going to walk away from our clients and everything else. Like this, it's like, that would be so empowering, but I'm not at that spot right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's good to start thinking about, right?
They're going to be more responsive. If they're paying you a retained contract, like they're going to be more responsive. Plus, you get to be a point of authority within the whole company. So like, we have a retained client, and I work directly with their like chief HR person, which she's great, and we work together really well. But if we ever have a problem, or if their process really sucks, or it's causing problems, it's very easy for me to go, "Hey, like, do we want to fix this together? Or like, if we can't come to terms on this, do I need to pick up the phone and call the CEO of the company, because I know her really well too, and I can just call her up and say, 'Hey, Katie, this process sucks. This is the problem. This is how I recommend you fix it. I'm getting some pushback. Like, what do you want to do here?'"
Yeah, I've got a question. You mentioned I've been halfway dealing with a sick daughter today, so I missed some of it at the beginning. But you mentioned that you go to the meeting fully prepared with the labor stats on the role. Where are you finding that data? Just online, or like the LinkedIn,
Dom
whatever?
mentioned it already. So go ahead, and, Dom, if you want to show them. But yeah, so there's LinkedIn, like there's talent insights, but then also let me pull up this link. So I want to say it correctly.
So Brian, give me a company you're interested.
Yeah.
Give me a company.
Let's go with a company I'm interested in. Let's go with Hiya, Hiya.
HIYA.
Yeah.
This one?
Yep.
So you can see, right, they're down 15%. You can see where they're hiring from. You can see the fastest growing skills, top skills. What schools are they hiring from? What degrees? What locations? And you can see the talent flow, where they're coming in and out, where the hire's coming from. It's not a good number right here, so they probably definitely need your help. 38 hires, 67 departures, net negative 29. What was key for me is like when you get a role, you can just look right here. It's like, okay, where are they pulling from? Let me see what kind of profiles they're creating. So 4 from Locus AI. And then where are they departing to? So because now you can go target these companies.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then I have LinkedIn Recruiter Pro, so I don't think, like, for example, if I want to see these senior software engineers right here, right? I can see all their profiles. And I can narrow it down to US, whatever I want. Is it popping up? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much does that cost? That LinkedIn Recruiter Pro and all this?
Well, I'll give you a seat. Put your email in the chat. So I'm going to pause the recording and stop it. So, yeah, send me your email. If whoever needs to see, let me know. Josh, do you have one? I think I gave you one before, right? Or no?
No, I don't have one. I don't really need one, honestly. I don't think we've got a few things we're using that work really well. that also do something similar. But it's
Brent.
all, whichever way you
Sure.
go, it can be pricey. And whoever
Yeah,
Dom is-
which way do you use? Oh, let's see. Brent, is this the email you use not into LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get you a seat.
like Zoom Info does the same thing, but Zoom Info is always also really expensive, just like LinkedIn Recruiter Pro. But yeah, I mean, one of the free resources that we use just for like verification is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has their own site called onetonline.org, which I'll throw in the chat. And you can go type any job position in, and it tells you like how much money those people make that are in that job position by geographic region, all those kind of things, and like how many people that do that job are in each geographic region. And that's coming directly from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is really interesting because a lot of these tools that we're using, to some extent, a lot of their data and some of the things that they're referencing are coming from this same U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics site. So you can go directly to the source for free, which is kind of nice too.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, there are a lot of areas where you can go and grab it.
Thanks, Dom. Welcome email. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you like
Share,
of like LinkedIn or something, or?
No, I just build relationships with them. I went to their office downtown Detroit, and she gave me 60 seats, and I was like, "Oh, thank." I thought she screwed up, and she's like, "Here." Yeah, I haven't said anything to her because I don't. You know how much this LinkedIn Talent Insights is separate. It's so expensive.
Do you guys? Does anybody on this call have any idea how much one of these seats cost? Like, do you guys know?
Well, I know for Descartes it was like 60 grand.
I was gonna say it's about $8,000 per seat per year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I would
use,
love to see
I use
some
Sales Nav.
Sales Navigator works good.
Yeah, that's what I've been using.
Well, Gigi, this goes with it. Like you can use this with it. Just Sales Nav is where you're, like I use LinkedIn Recruiter Pro. This is just Talent Insights standalone product.
Yeah. Yeah. I had reached out to LinkedIn before because I also wanted to like add, I think it was the Recruiter Lite, and they said I couldn't have both licenses. I wasn't allowed to have both licenses. I was like, really?
What, Recruiter Lite and Sales Nav?
Yeah, they said because I already had Sales Nav, I wasn't. It was like everything was over email. They said I couldn't have, which is strange because a few years ago I had both licenses, but I canceled I think Recruiter Lite because I just didn't feel like I needed both. And when I was just starting off, and then when I went to try to add Recruiter Lite, I think like again last year, they were like, "Oh, you're not allowed to have both." I was like, "Okay."
Oh, Devin, I didn't even see you on there. How's everything going for you? Yeah, Gigi, I have both, so that's weird.
Yeah.
It's doing good. Sorry, I had to bounce back and forth. Took a quick call that came up. Really
good.
appreciate it, Josh and Gigi. Thank you for like the open experiences at the beginning. It's been going good. Starting the year, dodging the scaries. You know, some things moving forward nicely, and then just battling the low moments too sometimes. But yeah, LinkedIn makes me sick. 700 per month. Rack it up.
What is 700 a month for a recruiter?
Yeah, just for the recruiter package.
They got you. I pay 500.
Sorry, I wasn't on the camera. Mine went up. I found success with it. Right, you make a placement, it pays for itself.
Yeah.
But I feel like the new like connecting method directly talking to them, I can do some of the similar things. I think it's very valuable, but I do look forward to, I think in May, my contract ends. They won't let me out of it. I've asked if I could just go to Sales Navigator. They won't let me do that.
What do you mean? If your contract's ending, they have to.
Because he paid yearly. So he got a price for paying for a year subscription, and now they won't let him out of it because they're saying you paid for a year.
Oh wow. Yeah. That is awful.
Yeah, but I am glad because they tried to get me for like.
Somebody I know.
Sorry, Josh. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've been down that same road with them.
Yeah. They tried to get me for like multiple years. When I first started my business, like 3 years ago, I signed like a 3-year contract. This one, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. Just doing it for one. So I'm thankful that I did that because I'm seeing the other things like Juicebox, for instance, if you guys use
Yeah.
that, heard of it.
About juice
Yep.
box.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so good.
Yeah, they pull info from LinkedIn. It's like you can do the same things and it's cheaper. I was
Yeah.
talking with someone on the Recruiter Summit. If anyone,
Yeah.
Dom, you spoke at it obviously, so
Correct.
you know about the summit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice to see that there's other avenues, because this is more than my car payment. It's a lot.
So there's that. There's Jobbing.cloud. There's Juicebox, People GPT. What else? Like I have like, well, you name it, you tell me what you want. I mean, here's the thing though, you can get lost in all these tools. Just use one that you like. You know, because believe me, there's new ones coming out every day. You know how many companies I have had reach out to me like, "Hey, Dom, can you give us?" Like I had a company just pick me just to give them feedback. Like they're like, "Hey, can you do a demo of ours and we'll pay you?" I go, "Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
100%."
Sounds like a
But
good deal.
there's one that's coming out that I will tell you is pretty scary for a lot of recruiters. It's not out yet. I can't say because it's an NDA, but let's put it this way: a lot of recruiters are going to lose their job, 100%, no question.
Not me.
No,
Nobody
it's gonna be the ones that are just not really doing anything, not learning, trying to get better. This is basically interviewing people, collecting 172 data points, and it's looking like it's coming from. Let's say it was for me, it would look like me right now talking, sounding exactly like me. It's collecting 172 data points, scraping all their socials for key things that they're looking for. It's pretty insane what they have coming out. It's kind of scary, to be honest with you. I'm like, that is not, it's gonna, if it gets in the wrong hands, like I already know this for a fact. This happened because one of my clients told me they're a publicly traded company and they were doing a reference check on a candidate. They had this candidate was a fake candidate. He had these scams are so good. They set up 2 previous companies with references and addresses. Like, so they go on and say, yeah, go buy this laptop, whatever. You put all your information in your onboarding. It's now they got all your information. It's pretty scary. Yeah, that's just a piece of it. But yeah, that would probably be out right now. They're working on just making sure they don't get sued, but then they're going to release it. Yeah, the people from like SpaceX, Microsoft, those are the investors behind it. It's scary, and it's really good. And it's only in its infant stage right now. They haven't even launched.
What's it called, Dom? Or you said you can't say?
I can't say yet.
Okay. I didn't catch that part, but yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have to let us know when it's out.
Yeah, I told him I make sure that I get that first. I get the first seat. I want that. But at the end of the day, it's still about your connections and human touch, because robots can only do so much, right? So that's why I'm not worried. But I think a lot of people that are entry level are just, scanning resumes for a company and doing sourcing like that. You're done, 100% done.
Yep, not good.
And it's not just for recruiting. This is a lot of other jobs will be replaced. So that's why I always tell people, I warn people on Facebook all the time, upskill, learn how to use it, embrace it, because it's coming. The train's already left the station, so figure it out quick. Like you can go on like Coursera. Here, I'll send you guys this. Every morning I look into I spend at least half hour learning AI, at least different things, and I use Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Typing Mind. I got bots going. LinkedIn's operator is pretty cool. I just played with that. But this is, let me find it. So I just study these people and keep watching what they're doing, because these people are the godfathers, godmothers of AI. Like Fifi Lin, Andrew Ng, Stanford, MIT people. Just absolutely brilliant. I go to their websites to see like, what are they doing? And I started thinking like, okay, with that coming out, what can I potentially use that for? Whether it's in recruiting or not, like if there's something else that comes up, like I can make a ton of money on this. Like right now I'm working on a bot that trades on the Forex market of Euro USD. Like that bot's gonna be making me money passively. I don't have to touch it. It's the 20 codes, the 20 algorithm codes I need. Like I got that going. I'm going on it with a few people to buy this bot. And then if it works to what I think, then I'll bring it to this group and say, hey, whoever wants to invest in it, here you go. But I'm willing to take the risk and try it because I know other people that are making money. But this bot is, guys, if I showed you, it's nuts. Is it still being recorded? Let me show you this. Anybody in crypto on here? No? So I'm heavily in it. So from 8:30 in the morning, by the time I get to the office, I started with $50, and in 2 hours, I turned it into, what do you think? Take a guess.
Well, you told me
From-
before. You mentioned a
2,000.
big number,
How much? 2,000?
70 or something, right?
It's
That's
hard to
good.
see.
74,000.
74,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
From 8:30, I kept taking pictures because I didn't know what to do. From 8:30 in the morning, 8:33, I was at 7 grand till 10:30 when I cashed out. 10:20 when I cashed out.
That's from using the bot?
One trade. No, that was just me leverage trading, and I hit the wrong button on accident.
Wow.
I meant to make that trade, but just not that leverage. I was at
Yeah.
100x leverage, which is very, very scary if you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But look, right now,
Yeah.
I got a few going right now that are crushing it. And that's what makes you a dangerous recruiter, when you don't have to worry about that. And then you can operate very free and not worry about what clients you piss off and which ones you like. Let's see if I can. It's so hard for me to explain on how to learn this and do it. But, I've watched thousands of hours of videos on YouTube and talk to these people over, they try to recruit them, try to get in their group. So one of these guys, he makes one post on X, he moves the needle, that coin, it goes from like 0.0000 tenth of a penny to you're making a couple $100,000 in one day. It's insane.
Just doing a pump and dump.
Some of them have legit, like, real world assets. You got AI agent tokens, you got DPIN, layer 1, layer 2. There's a ton. Like, there's a lot of real good ones that are going to be real world, assets, like real world value. Like, think about anything that can be on blockchain, which is any transaction, your mortgage, your deeds, anything. Like, I was thinking about creating a crypto for recruiters, and that way, if we ever do split, here, just pay me this, so it's off the books. We just don't have to pay taxes on it.
How do you ever bring that back, like onshore? Or, yeah, like I said,
Oh, simple. I did it in 2 seconds. Literally, it's so easy.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
very easy. Very easy to do. Plus, a lot of these platforms, like the main exchanges, like Coinbase, and they have debit and credit cards now, where you can, like looking at Ondo Finance. Like, that's one that's going to be coming out. It's already out, but it's going to grow. Like, I'm not giving you financial advice. You got to do your own research. I put in hours and hours and hours into this stuff and learned it. Hi, Jerry. Sorry, we were just finishing, but how are you?
Good. I've been here a little while.
Oh, have you? I didn't see you on there. How's everything
Crypto
going
is
for you?
above my head. I know so little about it.
Yeah, well, it was for me for 5 years ago, and I really dove into it. But how's everything else going?
All good.
Good. Good. Well, I got to get ready for another call. Josh was great today, which I will post it on YouTube, Jerry, if you missed it. It was great. Really good.
Okay. Cool. I'll take a look. I certainly love to learn from others.
Yeah, and that's what this group's about. And then when there's another call on Friday, I'll give you the link. It's every Friday, same time. Same with this one, same time. Just save it in your calendar. If you can make it, you can. If not, don't worry about it. They'll all be recorded. This one here's another really good one. Just put it in the chat there. You can save that in your calendar, and then obviously you have the link for this. It's 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So, all right, guys.
Cool.
Awesome.
Hey, have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Enjoy
good
the rest
one.
of the day.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you guys.
See everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Gigi.